There is always two ways to look at every story, and I know each and every one of you follow the news, and you've heard rumblings of a portion of this story, but fasten your seatbelts. It's all about to go down, and it is now readily apparent by what the World Economic Forum just published, what Google announced, and the Financial Times just wrote about, all of them in an absolute panic. And what does it have to do with the picture on your screen? You remember Russiagate, I know you do. The misinformation and disinformation campaign against Donald J. Trump. Oh, they mocked him, didn't they? The New York Times publishing this article about every time Donald Trump attacked the Russia investigation. More than 1,100 times, but what did it turn out to be? Well, all the lies were exposed, weren't they? And he was never wrong to begin with. Mueller finding no conspiracy, but it's not this story that is the story today. No, it's far larger than this. The World Economic Forum putting out the Global Risks Report of 2024. And what Klaus Schwab published within it goes in lockstep with a few stories. But this story is far larger than just about one man. All relating to the number one global risk according to World Economic Forum and according to publications around the world right now. Do you know what it is? This story is about to change everything. My name is Justice Knight. Can't thank you enough for allowing me to be here today. Huge favor, look below. Make sure you're still subscribed to Lisa's channel. You'd be surprised you may not be. Make sure your bell is checked, also your alert to upcoming broadcast. And just above, Lisa will put a link to my channel. You know, we'll flip-flop back and forth. We want to make sure you're always getting the news. Of course, there's one place you can get all the news we publish. That's at restrictedrepublic.com, the platform we created and continue to promote for very good reason, because you will soon notice why it is so critical you get there today for absolutely no cost whatsoever. Follow the link in the description box below. Lisa and I have prepared some videos for you, absolutely free, so you can check out the platform. If you like it, of course, we'd love you to subscribe. We'd love you to be a member of the family at Restricted Republic, where we put exclusive content just for our Restricted Republic audience. Right now, it's more affordable than ever. Again, you get those videos for free on us by using your YouTube credentials. That's all you have to do. And if you happen to like what you see, use discount code Independence. That will give you $4 a month for 2 years plus 14 days for free, because we know once you're there, you'll go nowhere else for your consolidated news that matters, because we work day and night to make sure we bring you the truth, just like this story, all about the Global Risk Report 2024. And no, I'm not going to give you a Cliff Note version, not something I do in my broadcasting. It is important you know details to understand and round off your understanding of these very critical maneuvers happening around you right now, because I want everybody to start to take a victory lap, because you're having an impact on groups like the World Economic Forum. You may not realize you are until you read their Global Risk Report of 2024, this 19th edition. Insight Report. Just go down below the table of contents and quickly you'll find the preface, where you learn exactly what this report is about. Underlying geopolitical tensions combined with the eruption of active hostilities in multiple regions is contributing to an unstable global order characterized by polarizing narratives. You would think that would be it. With everything happening in the world around us, global conflict should be a major concern. Of course, our natural resources and availability of those resources due to all these environments should also be of paramount concern, but it's not the number one concern. At the same time, countries are grappling with the impact of record-breaking extreme weather as climate change adaptation efforts and resources fall short of the type, scale, and intensity of climate-related events already taking place. You would have thought there, based on what we've heard from the World Economic Forum, that would be their number one concern, but it's not. Cost of living pressures continue to bite amidst persistently elevated inflation and interest rates and continued economic uncertainty in much of the world, and maybe that's the number one concern. But it's not. Despondent headlines are borderless, shared regularly and widely, and a sense of frustration at the status quo is increasingly palpable. Together, this leaves ample room for accelerated risks like misinformation and disinformation to propagate in societies that have already been politically and economically weakened in recent years. You're probably saying, Justice, but I've heard this story, but it's different. There's a sense of panic now surrounding this story. And you have to think about misinformation and disinformation and who is saying it's a problem. Because to the one listening, misinformation would be things that they think are not truthful and or disagree with. So there must be a raising concern within the World Economic Forum that this rising misinformation and disinformation could have an impact on what they're looking to achieve. So, of course, we got to go here to the overview of methodology. Which is always about control, in my opinion, with the World Economic Forum, because they want to assure they put out a plan for many countries to act against what they designate, again, unelected leaders designate as the highest risks in this world today. So they reach out to so-called colleagues and experts, which, as you know now, and we've learned over the last few years, that experts doesn't necessarily mean what it should mean anymore. I combed through this to try to find those in the United States participating, and I found it finally. Australia, Belgium, Canada, Indonesia, Italy, Sweden, United Kingdom, United States of America, Canada, and that I looked up, of course. But the three members they listed, with the United States above it, are from Germany, and from Germany. So I'll take the overview of methodology and just exit out, because it seems inconsistent with the goals of the United States of America, at least as they should be. And it never favors our freedoms or our liberties here in the United States, ever. So we'll go a little bit further into this study. What is the biggest risk impacting the world today? 3% of the respondents say in the next 2 years we're in for some stormy weathers. But their weather is talking about global catastrophic risks looming. 27% saying we're in for some turbulence, and 54% saying, it's just unsettled. But we're going to take this a lot further and a lot faster now. Because here's where the World Economic Forum falls off the tracks. And I'll show you how easy it is to dispel studies like this. Their number one here is environmental risk could hit the point of no return. That is listed as number one, normally making it the most important. Not with the World Economic Forum, no. As polarized growth and technological risks remain unchecked, truth will come under pressure. Who's designating that truth, per se? Well, of course, the World Economic Forum. It's their study, right? But we'll go a little bit lower here. So extreme weather, clearly here in the current risk landscape. Listed as the global scale in 2024, please select up to 5 risks that you believe are most likely to present a material crisis on a global scale in 2024. The clear front runner by 66% is extreme weather, but that is not what this report concludes. I know, scratch your head and be confused. But this is when you can see panic. This is when you could start to see, the armor isn't as strong as it used to be anymore because they can't even keep their argument consistent. Emerging as the most severe global risk anticipated over the next 2 years, foreign and domestic actors alike will leverage misinformation and disinformation. Emerging as the most severe global risk. As a matter of fact, it's number 1 now on this chart, with extreme weather somehow dropping from number 2, even though that isn't how their data shows. So there must be a reason for all of this. So we'll have to read why they suddenly bump it up to number 1, don't we? They go in a little bit deeper. Misinformation and disinformation have further widened societal and political divides. As close to 3 billion people are expected to head to the electoral polls across several economies, including Bangladesh, India, Indonesia, Mexico, Pakistan, the United Kingdom, and the United States over the next 2 years. Just keep in mind India for a moment. I'll show you in a second. The widespread use of misinformation and disinformation and tools to disseminate it may undermine the legitimacy of newly elected governments. It's a very deep prediction there, a very bold prediction now, isn't it? Misinformation and disinformation and tools to disseminate it may undermine the legitimacy of newly elected government. So who is elected their legitimacy will be questioned due to misinformation and disinformation, according to the World Economic Forum. That's a prediction, isn't it? It's a very interesting one when you study it a little bit further. Beyond elections, perceptions of reality are likely to also become polarized, infiltrating the public discourse in issues ranging from public health to social justice. However, as truth is undermined, the risk of domestic propaganda and censorship will also rise in turn. In response to this mis and disinformation, governments could be increasingly empowered to control information based on what they determine to be true. Pot calling the kettle black there, just a little bit, by the World Economic Forum. So I went to the chart because maybe I misunderstood their words. So I would assume, again, by this chart, that economic downturn and societal polarization would be the number one, but it's not. No, misinformation and disinformation in the smaller circle is the number one issue. So there, again, must be reason for this. They put out a bigger chart. Again, number one, misinformation and disinformation. But wait, the Financial Times and Google are going to add a little bit to the story to suddenly put things into a lot clearer focus for you. Because if I look at the current risk landscape, somehow extreme weather is one here, but it's not one back there. And the World Economic Forum is, well, simply confused. So the fun part begins. Misinformation and disinformation, number one, is a new leader of the top 10 ranking this year. No longer a small skill set, a specialized skill set. It's easy to use interfaces to large-scale artificial intelligence models that have already enabled an explosion in falsified information and so-called synthetic content, aka deepfakes, counterfeits, voice cloning, whatever else you want to call it. This is a warning. This is what they're concerned about that will happen. Or will they explain something that happens by using these definitions, although it may or may not be false at all? This is where the interesting part starts to come around. To combat growing risk, governments are beginning to roll out new and evolving regulations to target both hosts and creators of online disinformation and illegal content. However, even as the insidious spread of misinformation and disinformation threatens the cohesion of societies, there is a risk that some government will act too slowly, facing a trade-off between some governments will act too slowly. I've read that line somewhere else. As a matter of fact, I find that line in the Financial Times. So, 1,490 experts across academia, business, government, the international community, and civil society looked at the whole world's military, economic, environmental threats and concluded the greatest threat to humanity, number one, is too much free speech. A global risk is defined as the possibility of the occurrence of an event or condition which, if it occurs, would negatively impact a significant proportion of global GDP, populations, or natural resources. But I go back to the World Economic Forum's report. And what are they putting all this misinformation and disinformation surrounding AI and these models and this manipulated content and synthetic content? Immediately afterwards, again, is listed mistrust in elections. And who do they put front and center? The United States and India. So why such a paramount concern by the World Economic Forum, I wonder? When all indicators show that Trump will easily win the presidency in the next election. AI-generated campaign videos could influence voters and fuel protest, or in more extreme scenarios, lead to violence or radicalization, even if it carries a warning by the platform on which it was shared that it is fabricated content. Now, who would be reacting to that right now? Well, in actuality, the United States is. Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota, to ban the use of material deceptive AI-generated content in elections. It appears action's already being taken now, isn't it? As the plot thickens in this story. The Financial Times spent thousands of words writing about this exact scenario, the rising threat to democracy of AI-powered disinformation. But they go further in their definition. Online disinformation has been a factor in elections for many years, but recent rapid advances in AI technology means that it's cheaper and easier than ever to manipulate media thanks to a brisk new market of powerful tools such as OpenAI's ChatGPT, AI art startup Midjourney, and other text, audio, and video generators. At the same time, manipulated or synthetic media is becoming increasingly hard to spot. Already, realistic deep fakes have become a new front in the disinformation landscape around the Israel, Hamas, and Russia-Ukraine conflicts. Now they are poised to muddy the waters in electoral processes already tarnished by dwindling public trust in government. It appears the World Economic Forum and the Financial Times are on the exact same page in lockstep with one another. They start to use some bigger terms now as it becomes a little bit more serious about this dangerous AI enemy. Again, now being reinforced in the United States, so you don't think this is just somebody else's problem. This has put pressure on social media platforms including Meta, Google's YouTube, TikTok, and X to censor deepfakes and ramp up moderation censorship when it comes to ambiguous media. What is ambiguous media? I don't see a definition. However, they go on. The report then warns that social media giants are less equipped to do so than in previous big elections. This is where things completely go sideways in the discussion and the argument. Some, including Meta, trimmed their investment in teams dedicated to maintaining safe elections after the tech stock downturn in early 2023. In the case of Elon Musk's X, content moderation resources have been cut back drastically as he vows to restore what he dubs free speech absolutism. The efforts of the U.S.-based tech company groups to invest in fact-checking and tracking, and by the way, with X, that would apply to both sides of the aisle, which normally should be a good thing. But wait, the ironic statement is not made yet. The one that gives away the entire show, the one that shows you exactly behind the curtain what's happening. The efforts of the U.S.-based tech group to invest in fact-checking and tackling misinformation have also become politicized, as right-wing U.S. politicians accuse them of colluding with the government and academics to censor conservative news. This is according to the Financial Times, the ones that really give away everything. So to recap, big tech is now afraid to censor because conservatives have accused them of censorship. The World Economic Forum is warning the biggest threat to society is mis- and disinformation, and the tech giants aren't doing enough to control it. And the entire process will all be flawed and skewed because there will be a lack of trust due to what could potentially be AI-generated fake propaganda. Stay with me for a moment. And multiple left-leaning disinformation experts and academics warn this dynamic is forcing the platforms, universities, and government agencies to pull away from election integrity initiatives and collaborations globally for fear of retribution. Well, the tech titans would have to spend a great deal of money. And if they have determined this is pretty much already a foredrawn conclusion that Trump is going to win the next election, then why would you invest money? Now, with the rising threat of AI deepfakes, the Financial Times warns of disinformation doomsday scenario. Not kidding. That's their words. Now sit back and hold on for a moment. A viral, undetectable deepfake will have a catastrophic impact on the democratic process is no longer merely theoretical. Just think about that statement for a moment. These warnings are rather specific, and they're united in their messaging between the World Economic Forum's report that just came out 2 days ago. But you see, many concluded by reading this that the bottom line was that censorship isn't going away, and it states it right here, Bob this out of the way. Censorship isn't going away anytime soon, which of course it's not. But look at this entire argument through a slightly different lens. Have they conceded defeat? No matter what you believe or don't believe, it appears it's all about to go down. And the World Economic Forum, the Financial Times, and many others are now in a panic. And for those that say that they control everything, it appears they no longer do, because there's something they can't control, and that's the spirit of citizens. And maybe, more importantly, there has been an awakening. Folks are now able to see through the truth for themselves. It appears that the likes of the World Economic Forum and Financial Times and many in the media don't view that as a good thing. So it appears their doomsday scenario is simply the fact that you will now decide for yourself. And that, my friends, is what is deserving of a victory lap. You can look at every story two ways. We already know they're going to try to censor. So why would they spend this much time and not just do it and write an entire article that is inconsistent in its entire basis? Because they know exactly what's about to happen. And the truth shall set you free. And that appears to be exactly what they don't prefer. I love you all. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justice Knight, signing out.